Welcome to this session in the Leaders Library. We are hosting this event exclusively in the Leaders Library. We haven't put it into LinkedIn. We haven't put it anywhere else because we really want Leaders Library to become a place where leaders come to connect around leadership books and around some leadership coaching and training. And so we're just hosting this here exclusively. So if you are catching this, you are in the Leaders Library. Somehow, some way, you've managed to get yourself in there, and welcome very much. So just in case you don't know about our read-alongs that we host, the Leaders Library basically exists to host read-alongs for entrepreneurs, business owners, those in middle management, senior management. And the whole idea behind it is that if you merely read a business or management book, you're going to retain around 10 to 30% of that book. That's it. That's all you will retain. However, if you engage with that book experientially, in other words, you discuss it, you chat about it, you take it in through different mediums, you actually retain 70% of that book. If you then apply what you have read, you then retain 90% of what you have read, which is a much better return on investment. And so what we do with our read-alongs is, as a group, we read together a book. We go through it sort of roughly 30 pages at a time so that we can keep the read-alongs or keep the amount of content that needs to be covered in a week manageable. People don't get overwhelmed, but also we can start applying those pieces of the book that we have read. And so the idea is that to boost this retention to 90%, we give actionable tasks or actionable goals each week to implement and apply, or assessments to do within the business, so that you are taking away something every week to boost that retention to 90%. So that is the idea behind the Leaders Library. So very easy to join a read-along, connect with the community, join the read-along by hitting the request to join button. Then you read the chapters or the 30 pages that's been prescribed each week. Then you come to the group coaching call or the accountability call, and you take that back into your organization and you lead with it. And so that's the idea of a read-along, is to connect with others, to read a book, and to take it back into your organization and lead. We have run 6 read-alongs now quite successfully, and we find that generally we get a 9 out of 10 completion rate. So what that means is 9 out of 10 people actually finish the book with us and track with us throughout the calls. And 10 out of 10 of the people find that the read-along has made a significant difference to the area that we were focusing on in their business. Nobody that has joined a read-along has said that was a complete waste of their time. And so we definitely feel that this is a way to equip people at a very low cost on books and on skills that are lacking in the workplace. So these are some of the books that we've done and some of the books that we plan to do in the next little while. You'll see pretty much all of these represented inside the Leaders Library. Some of the read-alongs have happened this year already, and so we aren't running another one this year. We try to run 4 to 6 every year. There are other events running as well, so we have to give space for that. But if you're interested in any of these, drop me a line. I'll let you know roughly when they will be running. So today we are talking about how to build a scalable business. This is a book review session. So this is the first session really to whet your appetite to join us in the eMyth read-along that we will be starting in a couple of weeks. And at the end of this call, I'll give you some information about how you can get involved in that. But the idea behind this is, and I wonder if anyone can remember, when did you have your entrepreneurial seizure? So this is something that Michael Gerber describes in his book. And basically, something happened, and all of a sudden, you imagined a different life for yourself. You imagined that you would have a wonderful time serving customers with joy and gladness in your heart. You imagined that you would have the freedom to go and travel and explore far off lands if you could just own your own business. You imagined that this would be the key to your financial freedom and that you would have all of the money that you needed to sustain your lifestyle and maybe a little bit extra to invest in things. You imagined that you'd be able to work from anywhere. You'd have the flexibility to take your laptop to the park if you wanted to on a cold autumn day. I mean, why would you want to do that? But that's what you imagined for yourself. And maybe you did it because you needed to spend more quality time painting with your children, and unlocking that part of your life. But for whatever reason, there was a moment where you decided that owning your own business was better than the current reality. And there was this, what Michael Gerber calls the entrepreneurial seizure, where you decided that the way that you were currently living your life, working for a boss, making him rich or her rich, was not the way that you wanted to continue, and that you wanted to go forward and create a different reality for yourself that met your own personal needs. I wonder if anybody wants to share what that entrepreneurial seizure looked like and what that kind of life that you wanted to create for yourself actually is. Anybody want to share? Feel free to come off mute and just, yes, Talana.
I've always had a vision of coaching people from sitting on top of the roof of my 4x4 somewhere in an African setting, watching, having giraffes walk behind me and the clients getting excited. I'm like, forget about the giraffe, we're focusing on your goals. But yeah, that hasn't happened yet.
Crystal, are you able to tell us about your entrepreneurial seizure? What happened that made you decide, I've had enough of this world, I want to create a different reality?
I've actually wanted to start my business for a very long time. It was something I've been thinking about, but the time was never right. And this just sort of happened all by itself. And next thing I knew, I was a business owner. Yeah, and going with the punches and seeing where things go and stressing myself into oblivion. But I wouldn't change anything. This journey so far has been incredible. I loved it. There's been some challenges and there's been some really big highs. So yeah, like I said, I wanted to do it for a very long time, and I'm now doing it. So
cool. Okay. So when you do start your own business, like those of us that are in business already may be able to relate to this. There are 3 personalities that you are fighting with each other the whole time. So business owners may be able to identify the first personality is the manager. Now, the manager is the guy who wants systems and he wants processes and he wants to organize the chaos. And he needs everything in nice straight lines and nice neat piles. The next personality that you have to balance out is the technician. This is the guy that wants to do everything. He's the doing in the business. He is the one that's going to deliver on the product. He is the one that's going to make the product or deliver the service. He does the work that the entrepreneur imagined, and he puts today's bread on the table. And then you have the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the one who was the brave one. He designed and created the future. He lives in the future. He wants to know what would happen if we did this. How could we serve the customer better if we did it like that? Could you imagine? So the entrepreneur is the future of the organization. He's always thinking about the future. And if the entrepreneur is living in the future, the manager is living in the past. Because he is going, oh, how could we have done it better? Could we create a better system? Could we create a better way of doing things? And then Michael Gerber says the technician lives in the now. He's not concerned with imagining a new future, and he's not concerned with developing better systems to manage the chaos of the past. He needs to do the work now so that he can earn the money to put the bread on the table. And so what ends up happening in our business, Michael Gerber says, is that when we start businesses, we often have to balance these three out. But many people are much more comfortable with what they know how to do. And so they end up living in the technician zone most of the time. And the manager zone, he says that 70% of the time is spent here as the technician doing the work, and 20% of the time is spent here in this manager zone, organizing the systems and organizing the chaos that is created by this entrepreneur and we spend 10% of our time in entrepreneur world. And so we have these three personalities that we consistently have to balance and keep happy while ensuring the customer is happy, while ensuring that there's bread on the table, and all of those kinds of things. And the balancing of these systems creates a tension that has to be managed. He goes on to speak about the different phases of a business. And the first phase is infancy. Now, I often, when I work with startup businesses, oftentimes somebody has that entrepreneurial seizure and they are done working for the boss that they've been working for. They're a horrible boss, or they're a horrible company, or he could do it so much better. And so he starts his own business because he knows how to do this job. And he knows how to do it better than his ex-company or his ex-boss did. And this is the technician's phase. The infancy is everything revolves around getting the work done. The business owner is a master juggler. Some people refer to this as shiny object syndrome, where they're just so busy doing everything that comes along, taking every piece of work, even if it's not really within your niche, trying everything to bring in the money to put bread on the table. And the business thrives because the entrepreneur is excited. He's got his own business. He thinks he's going to be creating the life that he wants. And so he has a sense of purpose. But as the business starts to grow and as more customers start to come in, this person has to work harder and harder and harder and juggle more and more balls and do more and more multitasking. And so what happens is there's actually balls that start to drop to the ground. And he can't cover all the bases. He can't keep on delivering the work and make sure that there is Instagram posts going out every day and make sure that he has paid invoices every single Friday and make sure that all of the banking recons are done. There's just actually too much to do. And so because the business grows bigger than what the technician can handle, they then need to think about, how do I bring in a manager? How do I bring in my entrepreneur side to make sure that I'm managing my systems and processes well so I don't drop these balls, and to ensure that I'm meeting the future needs of my customer in terms of what the entrepreneur needs to do. If you get stuck in this phase, what happens is that you have just created a job for yourself. You've actually not created a business. You've really just gone from being employed to being self-employed, but you aren't actually a business owner. You aren't growing a business. Now, that's okay if that's all that you wanted. If you just wanted to create a new source of revenue for yourself and you don't necessarily have any aspirations of growth, you don't want to hire more people, you just want to be a solopreneur and this is as how much you can handle and that's all you plan to handle, then you stay in this infancy phase. But if you plan to grow your business and you plan to face your fears about growing your business, then what happens is you realize you can't ignore the marketing, you can't ignore the finances, you can't ignore the leadership aspects in the business forever. And all of these things put you in a washing machine. Should you hire another technician to help you do the work that you don't want to do? Or should you hire a manager that can manage more technicians so that you can do less managing and more technician work? Or should you be the manager and hire? So you have this washing machine of indecision. There's potentially work that you don't enjoy doing and you want to outsource it to somebody else. For many people, that's the bookkeeping. And so you start to think about ways that you could bring in other technicians or other managers to help you get out of this washing machine of just delivering on the business. And so the next phase that he talks about in his book is adolescence. So adolescence is where you decide, I need to get some help. I'm in a crisis. I have had a failed launch, or I've had a failed product, or I've had a customer leave because they were unhappy. So how do I get the help that I need? And so you bring in help generally to do some of the work that you don't want to do, some of the work that's maybe not in your zone of genius, so that you can focus on being a better technician. Or you get in someone to manage other technicians, and then you decide to abdicate as a manager. And what does that mean? That means that maybe you start leaving a little bit earlier than you always used to, or maybe you don't attend certain types of meetings anymore. And what happens when you start managing or abdicating the management responsibility is the way that you liked to do things, or the way that you used to do things, starts to get diluted in the business. Because as that knowledge starts to get transferred between the new hires that are coming in, it's not necessarily your way of doing things that's being transferred. It's the other manager's way of doing things that's being transferred. And they may be cutting corners. They may not be doing it the way that you did it. And so all of a sudden, the number of balls in the air suddenly exceeds your ability and those that you've hired to catch them all in the way that you would have caught them. And customers start to complain. Balls start to drop. And once again, you start to get sucked in. So you go back into the business, even though you have hired people that are supposed to be doing it for you, and you realize how badly it's being done. And now you have got two options. You are back in the washing machine, and you can either go back and be small again, go back to infancy, regain the control, get rid of all those people that weren't doing it the way that you would have done it, go back into your comfort zone as a technician, and you basically just get back to work yourself. Or you can embrace the chaos. You can go for growth. You can focus on the product and how well you can make the product. Your costs start to pile up, the chaos grows. Every decision that you're making based on your reflexes. And again, you start to grow beyond your comfort zone. The technician in you wants to know, how much can I do myself? How much can I do myself to make sure that the quality is ensured? The manager in you wants to know, how many technicians can I supervise? How can I put process and system in place to get this done? And the entrepreneur wants to know, how many managers can I bring in to make sure that all of what I want to do gets done? And look after all of the technicians that I need. But this is a very consuming place, because every day there are problems. The more people you hire, the more problems you have. There are different battles every day. There are different problems to solve every day. And sometimes you feel like you're fighting the same problems every single day. You're back in the washing machine. So the question that people ask when they're in this position is, well, how big could my business actually be? Is this it for me? I'm at the capacity of the problems that I can solve. I don't want to solve any more problems. I don't want to hire any more people, because the more people I hire, the more problems I end up having. So is this it? Is this as big as my business can be based on my capacity for drama and chaos? And so the idea or the premise of the book is that actually businesses can grow beyond this in a healthy way. And so the plan for the premise of the book is to look at, how do you grow a business in a healthy way that cuts out all of this chaos, that balances the three relationships, the entrepreneur, the technician, and the manager. And the key to this is to plan, to envision the business, and to articulate it from the very beginning. So if you want a business that's going to grow into maturity, then you need to start with that end in mind. Now, that's not to say that if you've already started a business, it's too late for you at all. That's not what I'm saying. And that's definitely not what Michael Gerber says. But he has taken a couple of businesses and he uses them as case studies within his book. And many of them started out with this end in mind. And if I think of a South African example where I feel they are doing the right things, and I'm looking from afar, it's not a customer I'm working with, but I'm looking at Melon Mobile, and I feel like they're doing it the right way. They've started out with a big dream in mind, and they've sort of reverse engineered, what do we need to make this big dream happen? So when you start out this way, you basically put the customer first. The customer is seen as the solution. And you go and you look, what do customers want? What do customers need? How can we fulfill the solution? Whereas when you're starting with an infant business, it's all about what I, as the technician, can do. And so let me build a product around my unique set of skills and the value that I can add to the world. So this way looks at what does the world need and how can my set of skills and services fit in with what the world, or deliver what the world actually needs. And I feel like Melon is doing that. So in this Melon case study that I'm sort of using, they have said, what do people need the most in terms of mobile packages? And it's data. Nobody cares about voice and SMS anymore. You can give me 4,500 SMSs. I'm never, ever going to use them. But what I would really, really like is unlimited data. And so people like Melon Mobile and Rain have gone that direction. I said, sure, you can have unlimited data. You can have unlimited voice and unlimited data. How much voice are we really using? Not that much anymore. And give you different packages based on what the customer actually needs. So in this way, the customer is the solution. We look at what problem the customer has. We get a clear understanding of who the customer is. And we keep on monitoring what the changing needs of the customers are going forward. Because if you're building a sustainable business, customers' needs change over time. 20 years ago, all we wanted was voice. And now all we want is data. So customers' needs do change. From a technician perspective, in this new entrepreneurial way of doing things, the technician will often focus on what he can do to create a product. And the customer never seems to want what the entrepreneur has to sell because the customer is the problem. However, the entrepreneurial perspective says, no, we need to start with the future in mind and work backwards, Mr. Technician. We're not going to focus on today's project right now. We're going to look at what the future world is going to need and start and go backwards. And so the entrepreneurial perspective focuses on a future vision and how you get there. It is the entire business is the sum of many, many parts that are going to get you to where you want to be in the future. So a great example of this from my work is Alon Reyes from Reyes Corp has developed a product called Flow Code, which is a coaching platform that businesses can use to help them grow their businesses. And one of the tools that he uses in this platform is called the letter from the future, where the entrepreneur sits down and thinks, where is this business needing to be in the future? And he writes a letter to himself based on future, 5 years' time. What is this business going to look like? What are the structures that need to be in place? What are the departments that need to be in place? And he works backwards from there to get to where he wants to go. And so we have to ask ourselves the question, how must the business work to produce the results that the world needs? And those standards and principles are how we take the business forward. Okay. So that's the entrepreneurial perspective as discussed in the book. And really it comes down to how to transform from a chaos kind of business into a growth-oriented kind of business. And if I had to ask you what customers most want, if you go to McDonald's, what do you most want from McDonald's? If I'm going to give you, if you're going to pull up at the drive-thru and you're going to order a Big Mac, fries, and a Coke, what are you expecting to get at the delivery window? You're expecting to get hot fries. They can't be cold. They need to be crispy. They need to be slightly salty. Your Big Mac needs to be in a box. It needs to have the right amount of lettuce, the right amount of cheese, the right amount of mayonnaise. The bun needs to be warm but not hot, soft, not overly toasted. You know what you are getting when you go and order a McDonald's meal. And it's pretty much the same every single time. It's very rare that you go to McDonald's and you don't get your chips hot, crisp, and salty. In fact, I can't remember a time when I've had a soggy cold chip from McDonald's. And so customers want a consistent experience. So if we're starting with the customer in mind, we have to think about the consistent experience that we're creating for our customer. And this is where the turnkey revolution concept comes into play in the book. The whole point of the turnkey revolution concept is to give your customer a consistent experience where they get consistent quality every single time. And the only way to do that is by putting in consistent processes that are repeated in the business. So if you decide that you want to open a McDonald's franchise, you actually have to go to the McDonald's University of Hamburgerology. This is a true story. They have a University of Hamburgerology. And once you have learned the system that is going to make the customers happy, you are then allowed to open a McDonald's franchise. And every business problem that you can think of in McDonald's, it has already been solved for you. There's already a standard operating procedure manual that you can look at and go through and work out how do I solve that problem. The fries aren't crispy. There's a solution for that. The buns are coming out too hot. There's a solution for that. The ice machine isn't producing the right size cubes of ice. There's a solution for that, because everything is standardized. There is a solution. And so the question is, how do you give your business what they want? How do you give your customers what they want whilst maintaining control over your business? And this is where the turnkey model brings that in. And it brings balance to those three conflicting personalities of a business owner, because it gives the entrepreneur the vehicle through which he can deliver on his vision. And it gives the manager order and predictability in the systems. And it gives the technician the freedom to just do the work the same every time without having to be creative and think about what needs to be done. Now, you might be sitting there saying to me, but Anne, I'm not planning to open a McDonald's franchise. In fact, I'm not even planning to open a franchise of my own business. How does it even apply to me? And this model is not limited to franchise. It's a way of doing businesses that actually gives your business a competitive advantage. Because if you are trying to build a business that can work independently of you, there's no other way to do it than to do it with standards and processes and systems. And so if you do not do this in your business, you will find yourself in the washing machine once again. And the thing about this washing machine is where your business becomes your life. And one of the things that Michael Gerber wants us to understand is that your business is not your life. He's very clear about this. Your business's objective is to find, serve, and keep customers. But that is not necessarily the objective of your life. If you don't wake up every morning and go, how can I find, serve, and keep my customers happy? You probably wake up every morning and have much more selfish thoughts about how wonderful your life needs to be. The primary purpose of your business is to serve you and to serve your life. So in order to get a business that serves you, you need to work on the business and not in the business. When I was preparing for this, I remembered that Cremora advert where the guy's like, it's not inside, it's on top. You need to be on top, not inside the business. Because if you're inside the business, there's a whole lot going on around you that you potentially cannot actually see. And so the rest of the book takes us through Michael Gerber's framework for working on the business and not working in the business. And he recommends we work on the business in a new way. We pretend, even if we don't plan to, we pretend that we are going to franchise our businesses. And in order to franchise our businesses, we have to work in a model that is going to provide consistency to all the stakeholders in the business. So that's consistency to the people that we pay on a monthly basis, our vendors, consistency to our customers, consistency to the people that we work with, potentially, partners that are in the business. Like if you're like me and you have a virtual assistant, consistency in the way that you work with that person. And so this model provides that consistency. The model of the book that he discusses provides that consistency to all the stakeholders in the business. The second thing that the model does is it can be operated by people with the lowest possible level of skill. Now, that one for me is interesting because as a previous business owner where I hired many people, I had 18 people working for me, I would often look for the best qualified person to do the work. But where we find ourselves now in South Africa, there is such a war for talent. Talented people are so expensive, and they know that they can charge top dollar. And as entrepreneurs, we are looking for a way to gain a competitive advantage over some of our competitors who are maybe bigger than us and able to pay larger amounts. So I remember in my business, we developed this product which was very much based on software developers and project managers, and we had to have all of those skills in the business. But we were a small company, and so to develop those skills, we had to train people up in the language that we needed them to code in, on the platform we needed them to code in. And as we were training them up, as soon as they would get their certifications and they would put their certifications on LinkedIn, our big competitors would just swoop in and offer them a massive signing package and just steal them out from under our feet. And it happened a couple of times, and we realized we couldn't operate a sustainable business and try and bring these highly skilled people in. And so to operate sustainably, we want to create a model that can be operated by people with the lowest possible level of skill. And I believe that this also speaks to what we need in South Africa as South African entrepreneurs, is to create opportunities for people to level up and get employment, not just for those who manage to get university degrees. The third thing about this model is that it stands out because it is so structured and ordered. And so the franchise model gives structure and order to every element and every department of the business. Everybody knows what they should be doing and how they need to do it. And the fourth element of that lends itself to the third, because everything is documented in standard operating procedures. So when I went to, I attended a training with Alon Reyes from Reyes Corp, and he was saying that even the popcorn, so they've got a couple of offices around South Africa, and they do popcorn on a certain day of the week. I've never been there on popcorn day. And he has a standard operating procedure, or somebody has written a standard operating procedure for how popcorn needs to be made. And I guess this might have happened after the second batch of popcorn was burnt, and that smell of burnt popcorn got through the whole facility. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I hate the smell of burnt popcorn. And so he explains that in his business, he has got standard operating procedures, and a scalable business needs that. You cannot scale if people don't know what they should be doing. The fifth thing about this model is that it provides a predictable service to the customer. So if you go to Ster-Kinekor and you buy a bag of popcorn, that bag of popcorn tastes the same every single time. And so making sure that there's a standard way to cook popcorn is, it's not just applicable in the Reyes Corp offices, it's applicable on a massive scale at Ster-Kinekor. And so you've got that same experience, whether you go to the Ster-Kinekor down the road, or if you go in a different province, you're having that same experience. And so we need to make sure that we give our customers a predictable experience. Now, the problem with us as business owners is if we are giving a customer an experience and then we hand the account over to somebody else to look after, how do we know that that customer is going to get as good an experience as they got from us? And so again, this is where the standard operating procedures become so important. And then lastly is that everything is done to a uniform color, a uniform dress code, and a uniform facilities code. Now, in your business, you might be saying to me, but I don't have a dress code. But maybe you do. Maybe your dress code is always business casual. In my previous place, in my previous company, we used to say to our employees, the dress code is that you dress one notch better than the customer you're meeting. So if you know that your customer is a jeans and t-shirt kind of environment, then go in jeans and a blouse, or go in jeans and a collared shirt. Your dress code is one notch better than your customer. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be a branded shirt and you know, and the same sneakers that everybody is wearing, but you can have a dress code in your business. And then a facilities code is what needs to happen when somebody comes for a meeting at your offices. Do they get greeted at the door? Do you ask them if they would like something to drink? There's a great story that he tells in the book about going for a haircut. So he goes for a haircut, and the first time he goes, the guy says to him, listen, I don't cut hair wet, I cut hair dry. And he gets given a nice cup of coffee, and the guy cuts his hair dry, and then he gives him a bit of a shave, and he has this amazing experience. He goes back the second time, and he doesn't get offered a cup of coffee, and his hair gets wet before he cuts it. He goes back a third time, and he has another different experience, and he never goes back again because he just doesn't know what to expect. He loved that first experience that he had the first time that he went, and then when he went back, he didn't get that experience that he loved. And so it's about making sure that that experience is uniform for the customer, that the things are kept the same and standard as they're expecting. So the book unpacks all of these different models of doing business, and it carries on, and we're sort of out of time at the moment, but I think if you are interested in learning more about how to build this scalable turnkey kind of business, not just opening a franchise, a McDonald's franchise, but actually turning your business into something that is scalable, that provides that consistency, that has those standards, that gives the customer the consistency that they are looking for, then I would love to invite you to join us in our eMyth Read Along, which is starting in a week's time. It's very easy to join. You just click on the request to join button in that space, and I will send you the link and the necessary things that you need to complete. Read-alongs are typically 1,479 Rand for 8 weeks of group coaching and accountability. And so that link will give you a payment link, and once you've paid, you'll be straight into the space, and you can add the event to your calendar. And then every week we just engage with one another, with the content, with the group. You can ask questions, you can post comments about what you found helpful. If you're feeling like you need a little bit more one-on-one in terms of how to grow and scale your business, I am a certified Flow Code partner, so I can offer that Flow Code coaching to you. And I mean, typically this addresses and goes deep with some of the strategic problems in the business that your business might be facing. So you might not be able to make great strategic decisions, and you want some guidance in terms of how do I make better strategy decisions. And so we can have that conversation. If you're making great strategic decisions, but you're struggling to get everybody else's buy-in and to get them to lead through that, we've got models that can help you with that. If you find that you're just focusing on the wrong priorities and you're not bringing standard systems and procedures in place. So these are the 9 different problems that Flow Code addresses. And if you've got any one of these problems and you want a one-on-one session, I'm very happy to show you how Flow Code works, and we can talk about that. But that is the end of our book review. I would say that those of you who have started businesses or new in starting businesses, this book is for anybody who has a business. And the various different principles that Michael goes through and that we'll go through in a lot more detail during our read along are useful to anyone wanting to get out of that washing machine where you just feel like, I don't want to grow, it's too hard, but I don't want to stay the same because too small is not good enough for me in terms of my earning potential. This is definitely a book that has some good principles and that can be applied. I wonder if there are any questions. We've managed to finish right at 11:45. So we do have some time for questions. If you have a question, you can, I haven't really been paying attention to the chat, so let me quickly do that. If I can find it. Very interesting information. Love the dress code idea. You're welcome, Judy. You can take that one for free. There we go. Found the chat. Yes, okay. So Shirley mentioned the archetypes sound similar to those in How to Grow Your Small Business by Donald Miller. So Donald Miller actually references Michael Gerber's work in How to Grow Your Small Business. Donald Miller has the artist, the entrepreneur, and the operator. So he has those three instead of the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And I think they're pretty much interchangeable, same. I think I prefer the archetypes in the E-Myth better than the one in Donald Miller's book, because E-Myth keeps on referring to throughout the book, how does this model satisfy the entrepreneur? How does this model satisfy the technician? How does this model satisfy the manager? And so there's a great focus in the book on maintaining the balance between those three warring personalities inside of us. Whereas Donald Miller tends to say, which one are you? Michael Gerber acknowledges the fact that you need to be all three in order to have a successful business, and how to keep on pulling in the two personalities that you are potentially the least comfortable with. Let me have a look in the chat. Any other comments or questions, just pop them in the chat or come off mute and just tell us what you're thinking.
Have you any similarities with the Pumpkin Plan? Have you read that one yet?
Pamela, I haven't read Pumpkin Plan yet. I know that you've read both. Do you want to tell us what you found between the two of them?
I'm just trying to remember. I haven't read E-Myth completely, so I haven't finished it. But the biggest thing with the Pumpkin Plan is finding your top clients and servicing your top clients and firing your clients that are not serving you in terms of the business model. And I'm not sure how if that's covered in the E-Myth or how he covers it, because the Pumpkin Plan author also references the E-Myth in his book. So there must be some correlation there somewhere.
Yeah, so Pumpkin Plan author is Mark Michalowicz, eh?
Yeah, I can't say that surname. That's why I said the author.
So it's interesting because Mark Michalowicz also references Michael Gerber in his book Profit First. So I mean, and Donald Miller references Michael Gerber in his book How to Grow a Small Business, and that's why I really wanted to read this book. Because I was like, these sort of authors now referencing this guy. This book was written in 1994, and yet it still comes up in so many of the business books that I'm reading at the moment. And I think Michael Gerber's focus is like, what is your customer and how can you best serve them? Rather than saying, okay, you've gotten to the point in your business where you've grown, and now you need to focus on what is profitable rather than who the customer is. And so I just think it's a different approach. I think the approach around E-Myth is to say, what are some principles that you need to base the building and the management of your business on? Whereas I think Michael Gerber looks at, Mark Michalowicz, at how can you make your business more profitable? Yeah, so I think the two are actually quite different, and they hit different things. But I will definitely read Pumpkin Plan, and maybe we'll do a review of it. You and I can have a review chat of it when we get there. I'm not sure if we do a read along of Pumpkin Plan. I'll have to read it first to tell you, but we're definitely doing a read along of this one because I think it's very valuable. Yeah.
Is this guy still alive?
I think so. I can't say for sure.
And
Hi.
just
Okay.
go,
Hi.
Dudu.
Hi, Dudu.
No, I just wanted to say the very first question you asked when we started is to whether you are sure that you want to own a business and you want to grow it. I just wanted to say, with me, it happened, recently, about 2 or 3 months ago. And when we had that 2-day course, I was sure at that time that I really wanted to have a business and see it being successful. So what comes to my mind after this discussion is that until you reach that stage deep down in you that you really want to own a business that is going to grow, you move on. You are in the first stage, looking at you are at infancy, you are in the washing machine, you go back, you just go from one stage to the other and you go back until you are sure. I remember we were on lunch, I sat at the table. I have decided that I will never work for somebody else ever again, which is something that I decided a few months, 3 months ago. Until you reach that stage deep down in you, it's very difficult to move forward. You'll move from infancy, or you stay there, or you move from infancy, you get into a washing machine, it throws you back to being at infancy. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share, that now I'm sure this is what I want to do. But for many years, actually, I think it also contributed to my first business not doing well, because I wasn't sure whether I want to be employed, I want to further my studies, I want to run a business. But until 3 months ago, now I'm sure this is what I want to do. Thank you.
That's a really lovely insight, Judy. Thanks for sharing that with us, because I think there are people who have said, what I've got right now is enough for me. I don't have the capacity to add more. And then there are people who are like, no, I want a business. I want to grow this business. I want this business to be more than it currently is. And I think it's about being honest with yourself and say, yep, this is what I want to do. I want a business. I don't just want to have created a job for myself, and I definitely don't want a hobby that I have to put money into to keep it going. I want a business. And if you want a business, then I would encourage you, Judy, to join us for this read along if you're able to, because this will give you the tools and the principles that you need to set it up right in terms of the structures. I know that you attended our course recently, and that we spoke about marketing, and we spoke about sales, and we spoke about some of those important things that need to happen in business. And those are some of the technician things, right, that need to happen. But it's also good to understand, hey, what are those structures that I need to put in place from the beginning to be able to scale this business? But if you're not ready this year to do this read along, we'll probably run it again next year. So there's no urgency to catch it now. I know you've got lots to work on from Grow Your Healthcare Practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a worthwhile read, Judy. Take it to the Drakensberg with you.
I will, definitely.
Any final thoughts? Talana, I think you came off mute.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, because you mentioned Alon Reyes and that with his business incubator, I was fortunate to just spend 1 year through the incubator, and your first class as you go in, they actually give you a copy of eMyth.
Oh,
So for
really?
me, yeah, I don't know if he still does it, but that was, a while ago. But that's how much they value that book, that it is really a really good business book in terms of everything that it covers. So I just thought just to add that little anecdote.
I didn't know that, but as I've been going through it, I must say I've been like, oh, I've seen this in Flow Code, or oh, I've seen this in Flow Code. So there's a couple of things that I was like, oh, this fits in so nicely with the Flow Code way of coaching. So thanks for that. I didn't know that. That's brand new information.
Cool. But thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, everyone. So I think if that's it, I will give you the last 5 minutes of the hour to go and find a cup of tea or maybe have a quick break. Thank you very much for attending. For those of you that came and that watched the recording, thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope to see you in the read along. Have a lovely afternoon.